This week in wrestling history, it was September the 15th and 16th of 1996. Man, that is 28 years ago.
I wasn't even born yet.
Oh my goodness. I was watching this live. Fall Brawl War Games on the 15th. The NWO does the unthinkable, Andy. They got Sting to turn his back on WCW, but Sting tells WCW that was an imposter. It wasn't him. He was in Japan. WCW doesn't believe him. Sting shows up, cleans house, walks out on his friends, and walks out on WCW. And Andy, the Crow is born after this incident. What do you remember? You said you weren't born. Obviously, you've gone back and watched it. The Sting evolution into the Crow and feuding with the NWO is easily the best story that WCW ever told. But just going back and watching it as an older age, as I mentioned, I watched it live and I was 8 years old. So going back and watching it as an older adult, what are your thoughts as you look back through what was Fall Brawl and then the subsequent Monday Nitro after that when Sting cut his promo?
Yeah, it's it's one of those moments where we kind of see this in wrestling a lot, where you have one specific character who you think is going to stay that way forever and kind of be that like perfect babyface, character that we love to see.
Yeah.
And then something switches, and there's always that fear when it switches of, oh no, this is going to ruin their career. They're not going to recover. And then you see the aftermath of it, and you're like, oh no, that was absolutely the right decision to go with that. I think a modern day example of that is the first time Sami Zayn turned heel. Like, Sami Zayn seemed like the babyface that was never going to turn heel. You'd never be able to do anything like that. And then he turned heel, and it was like, oh, well, that led to, him being the Intercontinental Champion, him going into the bloodline, things like that. It was a lot of interesting things. So, you never really know what you're going to get. But I imagine this shocked the wrestling world to no end. To see this version of Sting that, nobody really thought they would ever see.
What's so funny is I remember specifically watching this, like I said, and watching this, it was like you didn't know what to think with, was it Sting? Because let me flash this picture back up on you if you're watching on our YouTube channel. You see the guy on the left of the big picture. That's the fake Sting. That's Jeff Farmer. And the guy on the right is Sting. Well, if you look in the top right-hand corner, that is Lex Luger in the parking lot when he comes face-to-face with the fake Sting. And WCW shot this so well that you can't tell if that's the real Sting or not. If they would have gotten any closer, you would know that that was not actually Sting. But the NWO, again, recruited this fake Sting and to turn his back on WCW and set up the whole War Games thing. So watching this in real time, I don't want to say I was a super smart 8-year-old, but I believed Sting the whole time. Like when he came back, I was like, Sting's right. Like he's telling the truth. And even when the fake Sting showed up, I was like, no, that's not Sting. Like it's not. And if you're a weirdo like me and you watch how the fake Sting wrestled, he didn't do the Stinger Splash exactly the same. He didn't do the beating your chest and yelling exactly like Sting did. So you go back and look at 1994, the fake Undertaker when he did his thing. If you're a smart fan, you could tell. So yeah. I was that way with Sting. I always believed Sting, but I want to point this out. I'll show this picture on our YouTube channel. This is a screenshot of Sting's promo the night after Fall Brawl when he comes out and he tells WCW to stick it, and that the announcers and the wrestlers and nobody believed him, but he appreciated the fans that stuck by him and that he would still be here for them, but the Stinger was going to have to go away, and he considered himself a free agent. And this is the first night that we hear the line, the only thing that's for sure about Sting is nothing's for sure. And the whole promo, Andy, his back is to the hard cam. He never looks at the camera the whole promo. I don't want to give Eric Bischoff all the credit in the world for this storyline because I'm sure a lot of people had a hand in it. But, dude, if they had the beats of that storyline all the way written out the way that they did, and for it to be executed the way it was, oh my goodness. Like, kudos to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it's probably one of, if not the best stories that WCW ever told was this story with Sting. And so, kudos to them. Like you said, if that followed through, just seeing the picture that you just threw up there now of the first iteration of Crow Sting is just wild to see him like that. Cause as I've said before, my wife is not a wrestling fan. She did not become a wrestling fan until we got married. And the only Sting she knew was Crow Sting. And so when I went back and showed her Surfer Sting, she said, "Who is this loser?" I was like, that's who Sting is. Like that. If that Sting didn't exist, you wouldn't have, like, the Crow Sting would have never worked at either. So they all play hand in hand. It's kind of like a reverse Undertaker of going from the dead man to the American BA to going back to the dead. Like, it's kind of the reverse of that, but it's the same thing of, just taking the character in a completely different direction. So credit to them. It's a captivating story that people have tried to mimic and to redo, and it just has not worked to the same extent that this did.
We talk all the time about how Hulk Hogan essentially had 2 Hall of Fame careers with the red and yellow and then with the NWO. And we talk about how Shawn Michaels had his first run before he broke his back, and that's a Hall of Fame career. And then his comeback was yet another one. Well, listen, you could make the same argument for Sting. That as Surfer Sting, he was a Hall of Famer. And then as Crow Sting, he literally, just like Hogan, added so many years to his career because you talked about changing characters. Who knows if this new iteration, the way wrestling was going, if Surfer Sting would have actually worked. The red and yellow Hogan didn't work. Would Surfer Sting have worked? Who knows,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a testament to him as well of seeing the business, kind of reading the business before it even happened, of seeing the business change to a, I don't want to say a darker, grittier version, but to where the Crow Sting fit into that era of wrestling more than Surfer Sting would have. Same way with, like we just talked about with Hogan, the trading in the red and yellow for the black and white, like it fit that era of WCW and wrestling, and so he kind of saw the writing on the wall, and instead of being stubborn about it, went along with it and got the version that we get now.